Jason Miles had no idea his casual compliment would start an interstellar incident. He was just trying to break the ice standing in the Temple of Union, surrounded by towering alien priestesses with glowing skin and ceremonial spears. Jason muttered the one line that ended his diplomatic neutrality forever. I honor your glorious form with my open body and spirit. There was a gasp, followed by a thunderous purr that vibrated through the chamber walls. The priestesses fell silent. High Priestess Farai, 13 feet of glittering muscle curves and authority, tilted her head, golden rings clicking as she stepped down from her throne. Her bare feet made no sound on the sacred stone as she approached Jason, whose neck craned to look up at her chest, then further up to her eyes. Twin pools of violet starlight. The human speaks the vow, she said in perfect sensual English. Jason blinked. Wait, what vow? That was just like a polite thing. A side priestess stepped forward, her voice reverent. He has offered himself. He has spoken first. The sacred tongue acknowledges consent. Jason turned to the earth diplomat beside him, who was too busy pretending to check his data pad to get involved. The rest of the diplomatic team had quietly stepped back. Valride bent at the waist, her long silken hair brushing Jason's shoulders as she placed a massive hand gently over his head. I accept the speaker's offering, she said. His smallness shall be cherished, his bravery shall be studied, his seed shall be preserved. Seed, Jason squeaked. Lady, I didn't. Silence. Another priest is sparked. He must not withdraw his vow. Jason whispered, I didn't know I was putting it in. Valerie gave him a look that might have been pity or hunger. You honor me, tiny consort. Do not fear, I shall lead. Jason stared up at the temple ceiling, trying to recall the alien etiquette manual, which now seemed criminally underwritten. He'd been briefed that the Trelawney had deep ritualistic culture, revered strength and boldness, and didn't respond well to cowardice. No one had mentioned that accidentally complimenting their bodies in the wrong phrasing counted as a marital pledge. Valrite turned to the gathered audience. He is mine, she declared. Let his body be measured, let his readiness be tested, let the rite of bonding begin. The crowd erupted in ululating cheers. Alien drums pounded. Rose-scented incense flared. Two muscular priestesses grabbed Jason by the arms and lifted him into the air like he weighed nothing. Hey, no, wait, I have a girlfriend back on. Well, we were kind of on a break. Listen, let's not be hasty. He was already being carried down a corridor lined with flesh-cold tapestries and erotic murals depicting positions that looked mathematically improbable. The walls pulsed faintly and the floor became warm beneath him, as if the temple were a living creature. A soft glowing orb drifted down and scanned him from head to toe. Species human, mass low, fertility status unknown, phallus length. Jason swatted the orb away. Hey, that's private. The orb buzzed cheerfully. Confidence detected. You will be treasured. The attendants deposited him onto a cushioned platform and began removing his boots. Stop, seriously, this is a misunderstanding. One of them could do not fear. We have studied small mammals soothing methods. Would you like a warm wrap? Would I like a no? Look, can someone please get the ambassador or a lawyer? But the attendants were gone. The doors hissed closed. A moment later, Valerie entered, naked save for a shimmering veil across her lower torso. Jason gulped. Her thighs looked like polished stone. Her skin shimmered like the ocean at sunset. I did not expect my consort to speak first, she said gently. Females are so bold. I am pleased. Jason scrambled to his feet. Okay, you seem really nice and possibly terrifying, but I wasn't making a proposal. I was just trying to be polite. You chose the sacred phrasing, she said, the words of welcome, the invitation to union. You offered yourself with full spirit. I accept, but I didn't mean it that way. She stepped closer. Did your tongue lie? Jason opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. No, I Mean yes no I didn't lie but I didn't. No it meant anything. Valerie studied. Him, your fear is scented but not your desire. You are conflicted. I'm extremely conflicted. Yes, I don't even know what your species does for mating. You're like 3 times my size. Then I shall teach you. She said you are my chosen. Jason laughed nervously. Okay, this is just a prank. Someone tell me this is a prank. No prank, she said. Tomorrow we begin the trials of readiness. You will endure. You will offer your sweat. You will speak first again. I will what now if your second words are pleasing, she said, stepping close enough that her warm breath washed over him. You will be kept, Jason squeaked, and if they're not, then you will be released. She smiled, baring rows of pearly carnivorous teeth. He gulped. I might need a few practice runs. She placed a hand gently against his cheek, lifting his chin, so bold, so small, so unready. He looked up at her enormous glowing form inside. I really need to shut up. Jason woke to the sound of deep humming and the faint scent of something spicy in the air. He was no longer in the temple chamber now. He lay on a thick cushion inside what looked like a luxurious steam lodge. The walls pulsed with a soft amber glow. The robe someone had dressed him in was translucent and barely covered anything. A soft voice spoke from behind a haze of mist. He wakes. The offering begins. Jason sat up fast. Wait, what offering? 5 priestesses circled him, each with different symbols painted across their bare torsos. They began to sing in harmonic resonance, their tones vibrating against his chest, hips, even his teeth. Jason pressed his hands to his ears. What is this trial? One of them purred, endurance of spirit. You must remain awake. If your mind fails, your seed is unfit. Jason muttered, we really need to redefine foreplay. The singing grew louder, more layered, like multiple voices playing across different dimensions. Jason's head swam. He bit his lip and focused on staying upright. After 10 minutes, one priestess leaned down and whispered in his ear, do not pass into sleep, little consort. You'll miss your climax. He shuddered. Of what? A migraine. An hour passed, then another. Jason blinked, rapidly hallucinating floating pizzas and the vague shape of his ex-girlfriend laughing at him. When the singing finally stopped, he was shivering, soaked in sweat, and lying sideways on the cushion. The priestesses bowed. His mind resisted. He endures. Jason raised a hand. Do I get a juice box or something? A deep chime sounded. 2 attendants entered and lifted him under the arms again. Oh no. Jason groaned. More trials? They didn't answer. They hauled him into a new chamber filled with glowing stones and a heavy wet heat. A danced circle. Alien women with thick braids and heating chests moved rhythmically in steaming mist. Trial 2. A voice boomed, offering of sweat. You must join the sacred movement. Your body will speak. Jason tried to laugh it off. I don't really dance, the nearest priestess said. Then your mating power cannot rise. He sighed, stepped forward, and immediately slipped in the sweat-slick stone. The crowd murmured. Jason stood, adjusted his robe, and started moving in awkward thrusts and hip rolls that would have embarrassed a drunk at a bachelor party. One dancer leaned toward another and whispered, his rhythm is poor but his passion pulses. Another nodded, he will hydrate her well. Jason tripped, flailed, spun into a wall, and accidentally made a full loop that caused the circle to cheer. One priestess fanned herself. He brings chaos. I am stirred by the end. Jason was drenched, panting, and unable to stand straight. The priestesses murmured with admiration. He leaks purity, one said. Good leakage, another agreed before he could protest the phrasing. A third chime echoed. He was taken to a room lined with silk drapes and dim lights. A glowing console blinked beside a nest of pillows. The last trial. Valerie entered wearing a thin sash of silver and not much else. She regarded him with what might have been hunger or amusement. You have endured, you have danced, now you must Speak, she said, the trial of verbal. SYNCHRY begins. Jason stepped back. Wait. Now you must initiate mating words. If I respond, we are bonded. If I reject you, you may leave. No pressure. Then she waited. Jason's mind raced. He thought about poetry, song lyrics, pickup lines. Then he blurted out, I want to climb your mysteries and slide down your secrets. Pause. Valright tilted her head. You wish to enter the temple from the rear. Jason flinched. What? No, I mean acceptable, she said. Continue. He took a breath. Your presence burns hotter than two suns. I would melt for a taste of your shadow. A rustle of silk. You speak well for one so small. He tried again. I want to echo in your chambers until my voice becomes part of your being. She inhaled sharply. You understand the art. Jason stood taller. Also, I'm clean, vaccinated, and willing to experiment. Vi stepped forward. Then we shall synchronize. Just before she reached for him, the doors crashed open. A rival priest warrior entered, massive and adorned in war braids. He pointed at Jason. This male is unfit. He cannot protect, cannot challenge, cannot provide. The long roar. Valerie did not blink. He spoke first. He is weak. Jason interrupted. He's not wrong. The challenger lunged. Jason ducked, grabbed a ceremonial bowl and flung spicy steam water directly into the alien's eyes. The warrior roared, stumbled, and knocked himself unconscious on a marble basin. The room fell silent. Jason looked up at Vri. That counts as protection, right? She was already walking toward him with a slow, predatory grin. You spoke, you danced, you defended, you are mine. Jason swallowed. Do I at least get dinner first? No, she said. You will be the meal. Jason shut his eyes. I should have just waved. Jason lay beneath a mountain of silk and exhaustion. His legs trembled from the rituals. His mind swam in a stew of hormones and confusion, and his back ached from being used as a symbolic platform in the bonding ceremony, whatever that meant. He couldn't remember. He'd blacked out during the final submission pose and only woken when a ceremonial tail had tapped his nose like a gong. Valerie lounged beside him, statuesque and smug. Her skin shimmered, still warm from the contact, and her thick talon-tipped fingers lazily traced his chest as if mapping future conquests. You endure well, little male, she purred. I expected you to rupture. I think I did. Jason groaned. Emotionally, she tilted her head. You gave a satisfactory performance. Can you define satisfactory for my ego? She gave a thoughtful hum. Your hips do not follow rhythm, but your groans were bold. You offered spillage without hesitation. That is considered generous among my kind. Great, I'm a generous, leaky novelty. You are chosen, she said again, more firmly. That is beyond novelty. Jason sat up, slowly draping a stolen pillow over his lap. Listen, I've been meaning to ask, what happens now? Is this a temporary bonding, or are we talking forever ever? She blinked. There is no temporary. You initiated the sacred sequence. Your name is carved in the temple's breath records. You are now first male of the Trelawney Highline. His jaw hung open. You mean I'm royalty? No, you are breeding stock. Jason lay back down. That clears it up. She looked at him curiously. You do not wish this honor? I'm not saying I don't appreciate being selected, but I didn't come here to be milked and displayed like a prize-winning goat. She traced a circle on his thigh. You will not be milked publicly unless you request it. That's shockingly considerate. She nodded. Trelawney law is strict. You cannot be forced into reproductive ceremonies without a 3-day cool-down and informed warm-up. He blinked. You're telling me you guys have foreplay regulations? Of course, safety and symmetry are sacred. Jason laughed. Okay. So I'm legally yours. What does a highline consort actually do? You will be pampered, fed nutrients, massaged hourly, occasionally pounced upon. He raised an eyebrow. That last part by me only, unless I share you. Jason sat up again. Wait, what? She shrugged. If you perform Exceptionally, I may lease your sessions. To the High Council you would receive tribute and neck rubs. I need a lawyer. She frowned. We have eaten them all. They were chewy. Jason buried his face in his hands. This is a nightmare, a sexy nightmare. Valerie stood towering over him. Do not fear, you are not alone in this burden. I feel very alone. I will assign you a servant male, one of our diplomats captured during the moon dances. He will guide you. Jason looked up. Another human. No, a Garnian, technically a hermaphrodite. But he prefers the term delightful. Jason muttered. Perfect. She tapped his shoulder. Dress, you must be presented, he sighed. Tuvu, now the mothers, they must inspect you for purity and instinct. Jason turned pale. You mean like tests? She grinned. Physical, mental, spiritual, and tactile. Jason swallowed. Tactile. She reached down and cooped his chin. Do not falter. Remember, you spoke first. You summoned this fate. He groaned. I thought I was flirting. I didn't know I was triggering a divine selection process. Your tongue is powerful, she whispered. Use it carefully or not. Hours later he stood in the hall of matrons, draped in ceremonial cloth that exposed far more than it covered. Dozens of elderly alien women examined him from head to toe with eyes that glowed softly and hands that occasionally prodded. He is undersized, one said, but proportionate, another noted. His aura hums like a cautious beetle, a third added, useful in mating scenarios. The second agreed. He will require supplements, said the first. Jason tried to stay still as his thighs trembled. One matron reached out and gently tapped his navel. Responsive, curious, prone to accidental arousal. He shall do. Another smacked his rear prime. Valet stepped forward. He is accepted. The matrons nodded as one. He may inseminate. Jason's soul left his body for a moment. I miss my couch, he muttered, and socks. You will have custom socks woven from sacred fibers, one matron assured. To absorb the fruit of your union. Jason gave up, resisting back in their chamber. Valerie handed him a stone tablet glowing with schedule icons. You are now official. Morning stretches, midday worship, evening joining, midnight cuddling. Jason stared. There's a designated cuddle hour. It is legally enforced, she said. Failure to cuddle his grounds. For a moment he stared at the tablet, then at her. You know what, he said finally. Maybe this isn't the worst fate. She smiled. Good, you are adapting. Jason sighed. I guess if I'm going to be the high-line breeder, I may as well be the best. She purred. That's the spirit. Prepare for ceremony too. This one involves honey. He blinked. Just regular honey. She leaned in. Depends where you put it, you said. Jason stood in the ceremonial garden, surrounded by plants that glowed with unnatural colors and vines that twitched if you looked at them too long. His formal consort wrap, essentially a shiny napkin, clung uncomfortably to his thighs as he adjusted the strap for the third time. He had already been smeared with oils that smelled like cinnamon and regret, and he had barely slept since being declared the selected one. A soft chime echoed through the air. Begin the seating. Blessing, Borai commanded, her voice amplified through a chorus of vibrating crystals. Jason muttered, could have just handed me a drink and called it a day. The blessing was not subtle. Dozens of alien females lined up to chant, caress, and in some cases sniff him. Each interaction ended with a whisper in a language he didn't understand and a gentle pat on his lower back that felt too much like being checked for ripeness. One elder even licked her thumb and rubbed behind his ear like he was a smudged fruit. You are now fully scented, Balri declared. No other may claim you unless they challenge my hold. Jason raised a finger just to clarify. Challenging your hold doesn't involve like weapons and death, right? Only if you're lucky, she said, dead serious. Before he could panic, a small platform rose beneath him, lifting him several feet above the gathering. A projection of his face appeared in the sky. Underneath it were glowing glyphs translating to consort of the flame. Mouth of the first word human of the most fertile surprise Jason stared at. The title that last part feels a little personal. The crowd began to chant his name, poorly mangling the pronunciation. But their intent was clear. He was now property mascot and fertility miracle. All in one package. Valerie approached, holding a staff adorned with rings and beads. You will now speak the declaration of willing flesh. Jason's eyebrows shot up. What if my flesh isn't sure yet? You already spoke first. Now your flesh must catch up. He sighed, took the staff and repeated the alien words whispered into his ear. They sounded vaguely like a love poem and a lone agreement combined. When he finished, the staff vibrated and released a puff of glittering mist. It is done, Bry said. You are now permanent. Jason blinked. Permanent, like unreturnable only upon full bodily collapse and official pronouncement of uselessness. Jason stared blankly. So I'm stuck unless I die or become really bad at sex, correct? He groaned. There go my vacation plans. The next phase began immediately, the feast of confirmation. Jason was seated at the center of a table shaped like a spiral. Alien delicacies were placed before him, none of them recognizable. One looked like it was still breathing, another shifted away. When he reached for it, you must eat, Valerie instructed. Tradition states the consort consumes the heart to prove his body accepts nourishment. Jason prodded the gelatinous orb with a stick. You sure it's not still alive? It is, but Doxel. He sighed and took a bite. The texture was defiant, chewy, and somehow peppery. He gagged once, then forced the rest down. Acceptance complete, By said. Your intestines now know loyalty. Jason patted his stomach. They better, because that thing's going to haunt me. As the feast ended, a procession of young priestesses carried forward intricate necklaces woven from hair, bone, and glowing stones. They adorned him with each, and each represented an oath, a promise to serve, to listen, to mate without hesitation, and to never ignore a summoning chime. Jason whispered, feels a lot like joining a gym with weird benefits. You are bound in union, said the lead priestess. You will now learn the mating chant. He looked around. There's a chant. A melody began, rhythmic and sultry, and he was expected to echo it. The words translated poorly. Something about throbbing rivers and passionate avalanches. He stumbled over the cadence, but the crowd clapped anyway. One of the elder matrons muttered, he moans with promise. Thanks, Jason said deadpan. I try once. The chant was complete. Jason was escorted to the observation nest, a floating platform with clear walls where couples were expected to affirm their union before the tribal overseers. Valerie followed closely behind, already shedding layers of ceremonial silk. Jason froze. This is a show, it is culture. There's like 50 people watching. 52, she corrected, and one floating drone. Jason's panic was overridden by a sudden realization. Valerie looked genuinely eager. Her sternness softened into something like affection. Despite the madness, the rituals, the absurdity, she actually wanted him. He took a deep breath and whispered, all right, just don't crush me. No promises, she said with a smirk. What followed was more athletic than romantic. He discovered new muscles, possibly invented one, and passed out twice. Applause erupted as Valerie carried his barely conscious form off the platform. The High Council stood and offered a united gesture of approval. The bond is sealed. The flame has licked. Jason muttered, that's not a phrase I want on my tombstone. He was wrapped again in silks painted with symbols of fertility and officially recorded into the lineage scrolls. Back in their private chamber, Valerie lay beside him, stroking his hair. You did not falter. You are now legend. Jason groaned. Can legends get a nap? She pulled him close. Only if they purr in their sleep, he mumbled into her chest. If I purr, it's accidental, like everything else I've done since I got here. She smiled. And yet you are mine. Jason closed his eyes. Yeah. Somehow that doesn't sound so bad anymore.